God's blessings to everyone. This is a DGHradio.com news update for the British Virgin Islands, and I'm reporter EVH reporting the news covering the latest developments from across the British Virgin Islands. Today, we begin with security at His Majesty's prison in Balsam Gut, where concern remains high following last month's escape of 2 inmates. Authorities have confirmed that an independent security specialist from the United Kingdom is now in the territory to carry out a detailed review of how the October 25th break occurred and what must change. The expert is expected to look at prison infrastructure, staffing levels, training, and emergency procedures, and will report to local leaders and the National Security Council. Meanwhile, the 2 escaped prisoners remain at large, and residents are being urged to stay alert and share any information that could assist the ongoing manhunt. Officials say the final report will help shape long-term investment in the prison system and wider crime reduction efforts. Linked to that, new crime statistics released this week have underlined growing public unease about safety across the Virgin Islands. The figures point to steep increases in robberies, assaults, and vehicle thefts, with firearms playing a worrying role in many of the most serious incidents. Police say they have stepped up patrols, road checks, and targeted operations in known hotspots, and are working with regional partners to disrupt the flow of illegal guns. Residents, however, continue to question whether current strategies are enough, especially as social media highlights repeated reports of armed confrontations and brazen theft. Community groups and church leaders are pressing for a broader response that includes youth outreach, mental health support, and job opportunities, arguing that enforcement alone will not reverse the trend. At the same time, the leadership of the Royal Virgin Islands Police Force is under intense scrutiny. A former commissioner from overseas has been sworn in as interim acting commissioner, replacing a local officer who had been serving in the role for more than a year. Point. The appointment sparked public protests and a petition supporting the local deputy commissioner, with many residents saying qualified Virgin Islanders are again being sidelined from top posts. This week, the Premier publicly acknowledged that the recruitment process for the interim chief was poorly handled and damaged confidence in both the force and the wider system of governance. He has called for lessons to be learned and for clearer, more transparent procedures when filling senior security roles. The final choice of permanent commissioner and how that decision is made will be watched very closely in the weeks ahead. The territory's relationship with the United Kingdom is also in the spotlight as the Premier leads a delegation to London for the annual Joint Ministerial Council. In addition to heading the Virgin Islands team, he is serving as president of the association that represents all UK overseas territories and is therefore co-chairing the talks with the minister responsible in London. On the agenda are climate finance, biodiversity protection, cybersecurity, financial services regulation, and preparations for upcoming international sporting events. United Kingdom officials have spoken about developing new compacts with individual territories, setting out shared priorities and expectations. For the Virgin Islands, these meetings are an opportunity to seek more support and clearer rules, but they also raise questions about how far London's oversight should extend into day-to-day affairs in Road Town. Connected to those talks is the territory's long-running push for constitutional reform and eventually a referendum on political status. The Premier has said repeatedly that the current constitution leaves the Virgin Islands behind some other territories when it comes to control over internal security, the public service, and certain external affairs. He has pointed out that places like Bermuda received more advanced pre-independence constitutions decades ago and now enjoy wider autonomy, while the Virgin Islands still operates under a more restrictive framework. The government aims to negotiate a new constitution by 2027 that delivers fuller internal self-government while maintaining necessary checks and balances. Point. Looking further ahead, the Premier has suggested that a referendum on political status could take place around 2031, giving voters a choice between independence, free association, or an enhanced status short of full nationhood. Opposition voices support careful review but warn that messaging must be clear so that residents understand the options and risks, not just the slogans. Point. Climate change is another central theme for the Virgin Islands on the international stage. At recent global meetings, including the COP30 Climate Conference, local officials have been promoting the Virgin Islands Climate Change Trust Fund as a key tool for building resilience. The fund is designed as an independent, nationally owned vehicle that can receive and manage money for sea defenses, drainage upgrades, renewable energy projects, and other adaptation measures. The challenge is that small territories often fall through the cracks of major international funding programs, either because of income classifications or constitutional status. By raising the issue directly with partners and with the United Kingdom, the Virgin Islands is seeking more flexible access to climate finance and clearer pathways for project approval. Environmental advocates at home say time is short, noting that stronger storms, coastal erosion, and saltwater intrusion are already affecting homes, businesses, and infrastructure. Back at home, attention is also on Terrence B. Lettsome International Airport and long debated plans to extend its runway. The financial secretary, who also serves on the Airport Authority Board, has described the expansion as critical for the territory's economic future rather than a luxury project. A longer runway is seen as essential for attracting larger aircraft and more direct flights from major cities, potentially lowering airfares and making travel easier for residents and visitors. Officials say a detailed business case has been prepared to international standards and that the preferred option calls for a runway long enough to handle mid-sized jets. Supporters argue that improved air access would boost tourism, financial services, and emergency response capacity. Critics, however, remain concerned about environmental impacts, the cost of construction, and the risk that projected passenger numbers may not materialize. Final approvals, including from the United Kingdom, are still pending. Looking at tourism and culture, Anegada is in the spotlight this weekend as the 13th annual Lobster Festival gets underway. Over 3 days, visitors travel between participating restaurants across the island, sampling special lobster dishes and collecting stamps in a festival passport. Those who complete the trail can enter prize drawings that include travel and hotel stays, while children have their own Explorer Challenge focused on key natural and historical sites. Extra ferries, flights, and shuttles are operating to handle the influx of visitors from across the Virgin Islands and neighboring islands. Alongside the food, the festival promotes snorkeling, kiteboarding, horseback riding, and other activities that showcase Anegada's unique landscape. The event delivers an important boost to small businesses, but also renews debate about how to balance growth in event-driven tourism with the protection of fragile marine resources and limited local infrastructure. In Roadtown, the Christmas season is being ushered in by the Lions Club's 46th annual Christmas tree lighting in concert at Sir Olva George Plaza. Point. The evening program features choirs, musicians, and dance groups, but organizers stress that the event is also a platform for their holiday food and toy drives. Rather than relying only on donated tins and packages, the club is encouraging financial contributions so that food baskets can be tailored to families with special dietary needs, including low sodium and low sugar options. This year's toy drive is focusing on children with special needs at key learning centers, with efforts to include youngsters on all the main islands. In a year when the cost of living remains high for many households, the Lions' work is helping to bridge gaps in the formal social support system, relying on the generosity of residents and businesses to ensure more families enjoy a dignified Christmas. There was also a strong display of youth leadership this week during a mock sitting of the House of Assembly held at the community college. Students from across the territory took on the roles of elected members and debated recommendations from the Constitutional Review Commission. Observers, including sitting legislators, praised the students for their preparation, clear arguments, and confident public speaking. The exercise marked the 75th anniversary of the restoration of the local legislature and was intended to deepen understanding of how laws and constitutions shape daily life. For many, the event was a reminder that the next generation is paying close attention to questions of governance and political status. It has prompted calls for more regular youth parliaments and for civic education to be strengthened in schools so that young people are ready to participate meaningfully in future national debates. Finally, tonight, the Virgin Islands is paying tribute to a long serving educator and community pillar, teacher Phyllis George, who passed away at the age of 85. Services were held both on Tortola and on her native Anegada, reflecting a life that touched residents across the territory. She began teaching in the 1950s, rose to become a head teacher, and later trained in education and special education abroad before returning home to continue her career. Beyond the classroom, she served for decades as an organist and leader at Zion Hill Methodist Church, helped establish a Black History Month celebration that still honors local contributors, and remained active in community and senior citizen programs well after her formal retirement. Mourners described her as a quiet but powerful influence whose dedication helped shape generations of students and strengthened key institutions. Her passing has renewed discussion about how the territory recognizes and supports educators whose work often underpins social and economic progress. Point. These and other issues are of great concern within the islands. Let us know your thoughts by texting your comments to 1-315-898-1449. You can also join our WhatsApp group and get the news, weather, and other insightful information delivered right to your smartphone. To join, text JOIN to 1-315-898-1449. Please include your name in the text message. You will receive a call to verify your request. I'm your reporter, EVH, signing off for DGHradio.com. Remember, EVH and DGH, together we explain, verify, and highlight as we deliver global headlines. Because on DGHradio.com, the news never sleeps. Point. Goodbye for now. Ciao.